Well, here we are again. Time for another movie review. We just went and saw Eternals.
It feels like the first time.
It feels like the first time. And also, because so many people really loved my bare feet in our
that's
Dune
right.
review.
That's right.
Yeah,
Man.
We're gonna get real comfortable with this one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wasn't even going I wasn't even barefoot in the last one. But
Yeah.
man, I read so many comments complaining about your bare feet that I was like,
You know what? It's a thing now. It's a thing. We do barefoot reviews.
barefoot reviews. That's right.
Yeah, subscribe to our OnlyFans. So the name of this video is Eternals the best Marvel movie ever made?
That's a very good question, Jeff.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
That's an interesting question that you propose there. Is Marvel's The Eternals the best Marvel MCU movie ever made?
Yeah. And I think before we get into what we really thought about the movie, I think we should answer that question. No.
Not at all.
No.
No way, no shape, no form, no how.
No.
Nope.
It is not, however, in my opinion, it is not the worst Marvel movie ever made.
We had a little bit of time to chat while the credits were rolling because we stayed, obviously, till the end to catch the end credits and everything. And so not only did Jeff and I chat a little bit, but I even asked the people sitting next to us. I was like, hey, what did you guys think of this movie? And they didn't think it was terrible.
Sure.
They said as far as an MCU movie goes, it was pretty bad, but like as far as a movie on a whole, it was okay.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree hard. I think that it's the worst MCU movie, and I will never watch this movie ever again.
Wow, that's bold.
It's really bold, but I mean, like, man, this was a jarring film.
It was. So we're going to try and do this spoiler-free at first, and then we'll get into spoilers, but like we might slip up. But I really don't think that there's really that many people who are like hardcore like Eternals from the comic book fans that are going to get that mad about it, but we'll try. One of the main problems that we were talking about and we both identified right away, editing is awful.
The way that the editing is done in this movie, it's very confusing, and they do their best to kind of give you subtitles down at the bottom of like where you are in time and everything like that.
Sure.
But I mean, you're 7,000 BC, and then you're 500 AD, and then you're 700 BC. Like it keeps jumping from those points back to present day. So
right.
Your frame of reference gets all skewed.
And it does a good job of like letting you know. But, like there were times where they would do a cut and suddenly they're in the past and it takes a few seconds before it shows like when in the past they are. And so you figure it out. It's not like it's really like ultimately confusing, but when you're watching it, it ends up being jarring. And it's not just that either.
It does a disservice to the story, in my opinion.
It does, and it takes you out of the movie experience, which is unfortunate. And editing is something that is very important to a movie. And there were even points where, something's going on, and then they have to, because there's another thing going on, they have to change. And, like, the way they edited that, too, was not smooth. It was very, like, okay. All right. So that's like on a filmmaking level, that I think is probably one of the biggest sins, I'd say, is the editing. The editing just does not really get it.
I concur
well.
with that. I would say that the editing was definitely one of my big complaints walking out of this movie. It definitely wasn't my only complaint.
No.
It was pretty boring. Our main lead male character felt like just a carbon copy of like 3 or 4 different versions that have been done better before.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, too, we now live in an era where you have Superman, you have Homelander from, like, The Boys, and, there is space to have that kind of a powerhouse character who flies, is super strong, has laser eyes, and shit like that.
Isn't that what Captain Marvel is, though?
No, I'd say Captain Marvel is at least in some ways significantly different, and if they develop her along the lines of the comics, she can get even more interesting.
Okay.
But there are ways to do it, but yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to really differentiate.
Well, and you said the two main people that this character felt like a carbon copy of. Icarus, the main male character, literally when I was watching it, I felt like I was seeing an amalgamation of Homelander from The Boys and Henry Cavill's Superman.
Yeah.
Like it felt like they were just trying to take those two characters and find somewhere in the middle.
Right.
And
I mean, at least his personality is rather different, and
yeah,
that's good.
yeah, and like I said, well, that's the whole like in the middle kind of thing, because
Right.
he was that ambiguous kind of like he can go either way kind of.
Right. Yeah, he's
So,
complicated.
Right.
He's very.
We don't want. We're not in the
complicated.
spoilers yet, so we don't want to say too much about that. But
Sure.
any other standout characters for you in this?
There were quite a few. I guess I'll try and say like the strengths that I thought.
Sure.
The guy who plays Gilgamesh, I really liked him.
I did too. Yeah, I made the comment walking out of the theater that like for the first part of the movie, he feels like you're watching not Wong. Like
Yeah, from Doctor Strange.
from Doctor
yeah.
Strange. Like it's Wong, but it's not Wong, you know? And like it really doesn't help that the Eternals have all of these twirly gold like kind of visuals that
Visual
come out and stuff.
effects
Yeah,
and
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that,
And
yeah.
so that helps to associate it because all the Doctor Strange visuals are kind of similar to that.
Right.
So
But as he develops, I really liked his character a lot. I was surprised that Angelina Jolie was as decent as she was. She wasn't bad.
So she doesn't have a huge part in this movie.
No.
I think that for the time that she's in it, she does mostly okay.
Yeah.
Mostly okay in that like she's been in Hollywood for a long time. You know, they should have their craft pretty well honed by now.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
and the scenes where she's with Gilgamesh and they're talking by that tree where they're sitting down talking.
Yeah.
What it felt like to me when I was watching that scene is you've got a super high caliber actress who's really, she was giving a really good performance in that scene.
Yeah.
And then the guy that plays Gilgamesh, as great as his character was, like in that scene as an actor, it felt lacking for me. It felt like he was just reading lines.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the barrier there was for that.
I mean, he could have. You're sitting and you're sharing a scene with Angelina Jolie, who has been on the top list of like hottest women in the world for like the last
and she's
20 years.
a massively celebrated,
very
actress
beautiful
and-
woman, very much like Hollywood royalty. And if you're sitting there and you're acting the scene with her, and you're like, does he have any comparable work to that? Because I know for me, and that's what I was thinking when I was watching it. I was like, for me, if I was sitting there as an actor, no matter how much experience I had, and I had to do a scene with Angelina Jolie, I would probably be pretty, not into my craft as well. I'd probably just be, pretty starstruck. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I suppose.
Maybe that wasn't what it was. Maybe that was just me.
And the main actress who played Cersei, what's her name?
Gemma Chan, I think is what it is. Gemma Chan.
She was fantastic.
She was really good.
She was really, really good.
By the end of the movie, I like, because in the beginning, as it goes on, like the characters that are given a chance to develop do pretty well.
Sure.
But there are a lot of characters in this movie.
Yeah, there are a ton, and some of them are absolutely awful. Druig.
Yeah, who looked like a Ready Player One kid to me.
He
That's
looked
what I
a
was
lot
thinking
like Ready
myself.
Player One kid. Yeah, it's a different actor.
Right, but his enunciation in some of those early scenes where he's trying to deliver these lines with like this real emotional gravitas, and you can't understand what he's saying at all. It just sounds like gargling.
The deaf girl, she was great.
She was
great.
Another very pretty actress. Like,
Yeah.
I enjoyed her. We may have seen similar powers and scenes like that in shows and movies before. You've got The Flash. You've got Quicksilver. You've got Yo-Yo and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. even. Like,
Sure.
That power set is not unique at all. But she, as a character, was done really well, and I believe that the actress is in fact deaf as well. So that was really cool.
Salma Hayek was terrible.
Salma Hayek was very, very bad. It was a very phoned-in performance for her, in my opinion. And are we far enough in to start spoilers?
I guess so. Yeah. So
Okay.
spoilers after this point. If you really want to go see the Eternals, go see it.
Check it out.
It's not as bad as Black Widow.
I haven't seen Black Widow, so I can't attest to that. But of the MCU movies that I've seen, it's definitely the worst.
You know, the thing about Black Widow is like Scarlett Johansson was great because she plays
She's
Scarlett
fantastic, always.
Johansson. And David Arbor is awesome because he's David Arbor, but they didn't give him a chance to really do anything, and pretty much everything else that happens around it is just
What's
awful.
what's the blonde girl's name?
She was okay.
Florence Pugh or Florence Pugh or something like that.
Yeah. She acted good in it, but like it's
She's
just
gonna
a
be
shit movie.
she's gonna be the Dark Avengers Black Widow.
Yeah, well, whatever.
So yeah, who cares?
Right. Spoilers.
So yeah, spoiler alert. Salma Hayek's character dies.
Yep.
Probably by about the halfway mark in the movie.
I have no idea.
Maybe
It's
even
so-
earlier. The
movie is so long.
So there's the
It's-
movie starts 5000 BC, and they go and the first thing that they do is break the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
Which it's hilarious because then like later on they're trying to interfere in human evolution and stuff, and Salma Hayek's like, no, you can't do it, but like they're doing it whenever they want to. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So Salma Hayek, they've got to 5,000 years ago, or in 5,000 BC, they stopped some deviants, these creatures that are literally just the opposite of them, I guess.
Yeah, they're just a bunch of CGI beasts, and they're
Yep.
really dumb looking.
Yeah, they're really stupid looking.
Yeah.
They're kind of colorful and they're like fibers, but you know what it reminded me of? It was like watching Ultron.
Oh yeah, basically.
So,
yep.
So yeah, Salma Hayek dies as they all have to come together. They get
The band back together.
Yeah, the two of the Eternals get attacked in London. Homelander comes in and helps save the day, and so they've got to go see their leader, which is Salma Hayek, and they go to see her, and she's dead, and that kick starts getting the band back together, and
Right.
they start doing these time jumps where Salma Hayek's character is already dead, and then like you flash back and like her character is alive and everything, and then you flash back and she's dead again, and it's editing,
jarring and bizarre. And I mean, like, one of those had to happen because like there's a big reveal that Icarus knew the whole time,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera.
Yep, and Icarus was responsible for killing
Salma Hayek's character.
Ajax is her character's name.
So one thing that I really liked as a comic nerd, I liked the fact that the ultimate, and again, this is heavy spoilers because it is actually quite a twist. I was really happy as a comic nerd that they used the Celestial Seed storyline. So the basic idea is that there are these giant space gods called Celestials. They have the ability to generate massive amounts of power, and they basically create new solar systems and whatever, and they basically like sow the universe with life and stuff. But in order to breed a celestial, they have to implant a celestial seed into a planet. And so the Eternals are there to fix a mistake, which was the Deviants, which is basically just to try and do this. They're trying to do this thing where they make enough sentient life. They don't explain why this is, but enough sentient life on the planet that it somehow feeds the
it says
celestial,
the newborn celestial that's incubating in the core of planet Earth,
and then it can
feeds
bust
off
out
of intelligent life,
Right, and
until it gets to a certain point,
obliterates the planet in the
and
process.
then, the planet blows up as the celestial is born, but the celestial gives birth to stars and will help trillions upon trillions of other lives live. So
Right.
like what they're trying to do is they put the philosophical do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few question.
Or like the train tracks, runaway
Exactly.
train.
Yeah,
train
it's the
shifting
philosophical question. Do you kill a small group of people so that like a much larger group of people can be born, can live?
Yeah.
And if it was like this is my problem with that moral conundrum.
Okay.
That's like saying, do you change the course of your life right now for an embryo that your wife has not been even impregnated with yet? Like so
I'm too tired for a full-on philosophical conversation.
Okay. Regardless, like they're trying to say rather than saving these lives that are already here, they're saying wipe out billions of lives here so that in the future we can create billions upon billions more.
Right.
Like, yeah, okay, that's a philosophical question, but a better philosophical question would be wipe out these billions of people so that you can save these other trillions of people that already exist.
Right. Well, and so the thing is, like, they're framing this as a big moral thing, you know, and it's not a bad concept to base like the plot of a movie on.
I'm completely against like what the Celestials did. I'm like, nah, let the planet blow up. Like, let the Celestial be born. We're just what that is like that's just cells, you know, cells dying around, you know, something else that
Sure.
So, but anyway,
What I'm confused is so the Eternals find out about this, and everybody except for Icarus, and it turns out what's her name?
Sprite.
Yeah.
7-Up.
Yeah. Everybody wants to like stop the Celestial. Although I guess Kumail Nanjiani. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Kumail Nanjiani is in this, and he's fucking awful.
Yeah,
his character literally has finger guns.
He's got the worst power out of all of the Eternals. He just shoots like finger guns. Pew, pew,
just shoots
pew,
like
pew.
energy out of his fucking fingertips. It's so stupid. But he just is like, I don't want to be involved, so he just fucks off for the last half of the movie. It's really fucking weird.
I mean, he helps them, I think, but like he's reluctant to do it. He basically is like, yeah, you guys. No, you're right. He does. He
just
does
fucks
fuck off. Yeah,
he just fucks off. He just takes off and doesn't give a fuck.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So anyway, the Eternals like they're like, yeah, we want to stop the Celestial. I have to call into question the wisdom of the giant Celestials, because apparently, like, the Eternals have been doing this for millions of years. They just every time a planet gets destroyed,
and it was
they
Earth.
wipe their minds.
It was Earth that finally got Salma Hayek to be like, maybe this isn't okay anymore. I've seen humans, and I want them to live.
I mean, it's not an impossible hook, but even more so, why don't, instead of just like not telling the Eternals that that's the plan, why don't they like tell them and like make them fanatical like adherents and worshipers of the Celestials?
Yeah, so it turns out like you're watching this movie and you think
weird.
You think that the Eternals are just like, you know, they're regular beings that are above humans, you know, evolutionary wise or whatever, just biological. Nope, turns out that they're robots.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused about that.
They're robots that were like created by the Celestials, and they have their memories wiped.
But they're not like
time.
regular robots because they're also squishy, so they're like synthetic.
And they have feelings and stuff.
Yeah. That's weird.
It's really weird.
It's a very strange way in which they decided to take this. But there's just so many plot inconsistencies that don't make a whole lot of sense. I really did like the Celestial coming out of the planet. I thought that was very, very striking, very cool. I liked anything that had to do with the Celestials because I like cosmic Marvel stuff.
I see a lot of parables with like the whole heaven and hell, demons and angels kind of thing too, because like angels were created in God's image, but like they weren't allowed to do certain things, kind of like the Celestials. And then you've got the deviants who are the demons, and
right. That was another thing that was weird. So the deviants were originally made to hunt the predators of planets, so that the predators of the planets wouldn't kill
the intelligent
life. But then the deviants became predators themselves.
They evolved.
And that's why they had to send the Eternals to call the deviants. And this is just it's
convoluted.
Convoluted as fuck. But then, you know, the whole aspect of the deviants, apparently, like, halfway through the movie, we learned that one of them can, like, evolve.
Right.
Taking the powers of the Eternals. And he starts becoming more humanoid. And we're like, wow, this is really going to go somewhere interesting. This
he
cool.
starts... He hold on. Go ahead, sorry.
You got to keep coughing. Keep coughing.
That Raffi's ragweed.
It's Raffi's ragweed. But it goes nowhere.
Right. So the one of the deviants, the one that kills Salma Hayek's character,
and my boy Gilgamesh,
he absorbs their power, and then he starts to evolve into a humanoid, similar to almost like a Star Trek Beyond, where every time that one, character,
Idris Elba's character,
Idris Elba. So, and then after he absorbs Gilgamesh, he's able to communicate, and he starts talking to the Eternals, and he's like, "You killed my people, and the deviants or the Celestials have been working against us." I'm gonna take a drink of your.
Yeah, you can just have that. Yeah, you need it. And it seems like this is going to be an interesting character that's going to kind of develop, and we're going to learn more about like maybe the deviants themselves, or like why do they look like animals?
And then Angelina Jolie chops him into 4 pieces.
Yeah. And like, well, the script and the story itself just doesn't develop it any further. They're just literally throwaway villains that have no bearing on the larger plot itself. It's very, very weird.
Yeah, they made some choices in this movie that just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And as you're following it and you're trying to follow the time jumps, and the director I read was pretty well renowned for her ability to do like drama and emotion and stuff like that.
Sure.
And you can see that in some of the scenes where she really tries to bring that. But then there's other scenes where you're like, this isn't important to the story. Did you remember that this is the first Marvel movie with a sex scene in it?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I had to I just remembered that as we were sitting here talking about it. I was like, oh yeah, there's a sex scene in this.
We
And
really didn't need that.
not only did we not need it, but like by the time that you get to the end of the movie, like you don't even remember it.
No, and it's a very long movie. I don't think that necessarily like I understand that it's long because there's a lot you have to learn and take in, and it wasn't impossible for me to track what was happening. It's just what was happening like wasn't crafted in a way that was very interesting to me.
Sure.
Like they're getting the team back together kind of shit did not need to be as long and protracted as it was.
Well, not only that, but the stakes as far as the Marvel cinematic universe as a whole, and in relation to the rest of the Marvel cinematic universe, don't really exist.
Right.
Like there is nothing, there is very little in this movie to connect it to the rest of the MCU on a whole.
They mentioned Thanos.
They mentioned Thanos. They
mentioned
mention the Avengers.
Oh yeah. They
but
mentioned the
as
Avengers
far
once.
as like existing in the MCU,
Right.
like besides the fact that like we've seen the Celestials in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and wherever else we've seen them, like there's nothing really that ties this into the rest of the MCU.
It felt very isolated.
There's some after credit scenes, but I mean that stuff it can be tacked on, months
Right.
after the movie's done, things like that.
It
so.
felt kind of like an island of a movie.
Right.
In there's just
Which isn't bad.
No,
That's not
it's
a
not
bad
bad.
thing if there is a reason to be invested in this movie.
right.
In my opinion, there was nothing about this movie as a whole on a movie on its own that had me invested, and there was nothing with its tie-in to the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole that had me invested either. And like one or the other, and I'm at least a little bit satisfied. But this didn't really have either. So
Right. It makes me kind of nervous about how it's going to go with them bringing out the X-Men and Fantastic Four.
sure.
Like I want, because we already have an MCU. And they're going to have to find clever ways of like, where has the Fantastic Four been? Are they young now?
Well, I think
instead?
that's why they're so focused on doing multiverse type stuff, because now they can either just like pull them in out of nowhere and be like, oh, they were in this other universe the whole time, or introduce them in a way that like,
Okay. Yeah. That might be what they do. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I the thing. When I was saying like this isn't the worst Marvel movie ever made, you made a really good point, and you were like, I'm judging it based on would I ever watch it again,
right?
And yeah, I don't think I would.
Yeah, I will never watch this movie again. Like I will never choose to watch this movie again. I should say that,
Right.
because like I may go somewhere and it may be on or something like that. Somebody that I'm with might want to watch it or something like that.
Like,
But I'm not gonna go out and seek this movie to rewatch it ever.
I would watch Thor: The Dark World again.
Absolutely. And you told me in the theater, you were like, Thor: The Dark World is a worse movie than this, and I was like, you know what? I at least thought Thor: The Dark World, like I was entertained by it the first time that I watched it.
Well, it's like there are aspects of Thor: The Dark World that are really fantastic. I actually really like the design of the Dark Elves and things like that. But it's the problem with Thor: The Dark World is that it's kind of boring.
It's kind of boring, but it's
Yeah.
not like completely boring.
No, it's not completely boring, and it's just underwhelming. I think is the main thing. But
Sure.
like on a technical level, it's not a bad movie. Black Widow is like a legitimately bad movie, not just because like on a technical level, like some of it is just so goddamn ridiculous and stupid, but because they underutilized David Arbor. And
That's your biggest complaint. Like I've heard you say this now like 3 times. You're
it's
so
true,
mad
dude.
that
I'm
they
so mad
underutilized David Harbour.
Yeah, man.
He's a good actor.
He's a fantastic actor, and the character is really, really good. And like what they were doing with it, being like, a washed up former Russian, superhero, the Russian Captain America, and they just don't really even give him a chance to shine. And it pissed me off.
Well, going back to the Eternals, one of the other things that bugged me about this movie is there was more reference to the DC universe than there really was to like the MCU at all.
It kind of felt that way, didn't
it? They said something about Batman, no, Superman. The kid was like, "You're Superman. You're Superman. I saw you flying and shooting lasers out of your eyes." Like, and then I think there might have been a Batman reference in it too.
Oh, okay.
But then they go into the house and they're reading like a Star Wars book, and it's like, how long until like these pop culture references are referencing references?
Yeah,
like,
that's true. The last thing that I have a really big problem with this movie is the production design. The costumes, it doesn't bother me at all, but the style of CGI is really irritating. The like wispy kind of fanciful drawings, like that's the kind of shit that I would sketch in like middle school, swoopy swirly liney things, and I hated it. I
remember someone saying that this movie was supposed to be like something of a love letter to Jack Kirby or something like that. I hope, I assume that if he saw this, he'd be rolling in his grave, because like I would say that Guardians is a much more like accurate, Guardians and Thor Ragnarok. Much more the color palette that like reminds
it's
me
much
of the
more
Jack
like an
Kirby
actual
stuff.
I could see that.
This was this felt like an art house film that was trying to exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Sure.
So, I liked some of the cinematography, like the actual on-set location kind of stuff.
They did good with that. Yeah. It didn't feel very flat. It felt open and wide, which is kind of cool. But the other thing too, and this is just a personal gripe, and this has been in so many fucking movies, but it was never more exemplified than like Avatar: The Last Airbender. But those dudes that, well, it's not just dudes, but it's usually just a guy at a fucking festival who has like a pair of black gloves with white fingertips, and sometimes they'll light up, and they do like these types of things.
There was a lot of that in this movie.
If you start doing this in your movie, stop it. Just stop it.
Like the guy's literally building a MacGuffin device, and this is how he's building it.
Yeah. This is how we build the MacGuffin.
And it literally, when I was watching him build the MacGuffin device, like what he's interacting with is supposed to be something in the real world, but it looked like the Iron Man 2 graphics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
it was just the same boring
the Tony Stark playing with his holograms.
I fucking hated it.
Yeah, it was kind of silly. So.
It's just dull and boring and stupid and droll, and it's a bad movie.
I would say overall, on a whole, like if you're an MCU fan,
you're probably gonna see it.
Go check it out. You may like it. Like there were a lot of people who had a different feeling about us in the last movie that we reviewed. So who knows? There may be some people who appreciate this movie, who like it.
I am glad that I saw it because I'm a Marvel fan.
I used to be a really big Marvel fan. Like I used to be a super big Marvel nerd. I'd go and see every movie opening weekend. That's pretty much died off since like Infinity War.
Yeah.
I went and saw Captain Marvel on opening weekend, and that kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. And
I ended up kind of really liking it in a weird way.
You like terrible movies, though.
I like Skrulls. That's
the Skrulls were cool.
Yeah, and I've always been a big fan of Skrulls in the comic books. So like seeing Skrulls on the movie, I was like, fuck yeah, okay, cool.
But yeah, no. So I would say overall, I didn't like this movie at all. I think it was the worst MCU movie in my opinion. That matters, to people who want to get an idea. But like my opinion, whatever.
Right.
Go make your own decision. Let us know what you think about it in the comments. But,
yeah, please do.
And hey, like and subscribe. We don't ever say that.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
It would help. Even dislike and subscribe.
And dude, dislike and subscribe. That works too. Dislike and call us what was it?
Bald
Balding
manlets, yeah.
Bald manlets, yeah.
Or tell us that our reviews are unwatchable.
Or that our feet are disgusting.
Right.
You know? Until next time when we're barefoot again talking about some movie. I've been Jeff.
I've been Matt.
And
this has been Barefoot Reviews.
We're not calling it that. Oh my God.
See you later.